in Detroit, in Chicago, in Baltimore, 80% black. In D.C., it's not the chocolate city it once was. All over this nation, we need to educate local elected officials. Kay and I spent some time with a state senator from Oklahoma at a conference last December in Jacksonville, and I went over the DOT program with states and the issues that her contractors were trying to communicate to her. Well, some of you got the e-blast. Lo and behold, she filed a formal, after she learned what to do, she filed a formal Title VI complaint against the Secretary of the United States Department of Transportation for discriminating against contractors in Oklahoma. I think that's Perrin Mitchell stuff, and that's something we need to educate our state reps, our city councils, our mayors, and such. So thanks, John. How many members of the press are here? Okay, let's do the press first. You can have a question, you can have one follow-up, then we rotate, and then it'd be everybody involved. So Hazel Edney, Editor-in-Chief of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the 227 black-owned newspapers of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Alford. This has been quite enlightening for several reasons, but mainly because I know in covering the entire Obama campaign that he was heavily supported by black unions and members of Bill Lucy's group, et cetera. And so I need some help in reconciling whether there was any kind of redress for your concerns before the executive orders were concerned, before they were signed, rather. Perhaps Mr. Little or someone else on the panel could speak to that. And I don't necessarily have a follow-up to that. I do have a second question, though, if I may. The second question is whether there is any concern among this group pertaining to the stimulus package and the 90% private dollars, or rather private businesses that are going to get that money, and whether there is going to be significant black inclusion, whether construction contracts, et cetera, if that money is not federalized, or at least if it's not subjected to federal law pertaining to equal opportunity.
Let me answer the second question first. That is federal money. If there's a dollar in the pot from Uncle Sam, it is a federal project. So fortunately, unlike the bailout, the bailout, which exempted the federal acquisition regulations and exempted the laws for small business, minority business, 8A, SDB, the stimulus has all that in there. It's like typical federal government contracting. And the lawyer who saved that for us, there was a Amendment 176 from Senator John Coburn, was going to strip that out. And he put in language that every bid must be fully competed. What does that mean? That means that when you go to bid something, Halliburton and Turner and Bechtel are going to be there bidding with you and against you. But under it now, we got the small business set aside, and we can chop that up into minorities. The congressman who saved us from that amendment was Don Young from Alaska. And I went to every member of the Congressional Black Caucus. I went to every member of the Small Business Committee, Senate and House. Not oomph. They wouldn't touch the bill. It was in place as the president wanted it. They wouldn't touch it. Don Young went and pulled it out. One Republican against another Republican. He pulled it out because he said he believes in small businesses in Alaska. So we're going to give him a big presentation and a plaque to thank him for saving minority participation in the stimulus bill. It's a strange world. I hope I answered that for you. Mm-hmm. Mike?
Yeah, I want to kind of address it in a broader sense, and it's a good question. The term black union is a little bit of an oxymoron.
It is.
To me there. But yeah, unions as a whole, unions to a large degree are financing democratic activity from a political perspective in this country today, which is very much in African American communities. I'm from Prince George's County. I'm sure you know the demographics of our county. We're 650,000 residents and close to 70% African American. In municipalities and counties and states, everywhere that you have significant African American populations, You have unions that have become active, and they are fighting their interests from a political perspective. The political perspective seems to have resonated and is in that extreme corner that I referred to earlier as being part of a democratic platform. As small business, I've been a lifelong small business and minority business advocate, and things like living wage bills and those things that undermine the opportunities for small and minority businesses is not something that just with Obama. I support the president, and I think that it was absolutely necessary to have the kind of change and the kind of attitude that we had coming into this administration. However, the thing that I hope to see in following through is the nonpartisan approach, to say not the party extremities of either party, but the interest that best serves our citizens. And from a small and minority business perspective, it's not the extreme union perspective that I think will serve entrepreneurs from the African American and small business community.
We need to do audits on these union shops. And there are audits from the Department of Labor, Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs. They will go in and audit and do head counts. How many blacks, how many Hispanics, how many women, how many laborers, how many foremen, how many managers. We need to do audits. And any unions like the Electrical Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, pipe fitters, roofers, high-paying jobs with very few blacks in them, we need to try to get them decertified as unions and void them from federal work. And I told Senator Mary Landrieu of the Small Business Committee that you start throwing up these project labor agreements on some of the stimulus stuff, we're going to file suit. File suit. Because you cannot discriminate with federal money. You can't do that. It's still the law. And we're going to go after them. Sam?
Just a very brief comment, because, and you just alluded to it, there's a fact that you keep it in mind will help you to deal with this labor union issue. And that is that there are labor unions, and then there are construction trade labor unions. They may all be dogs, but they're different breeds. And you have to look at them differently. Oftentimes the construction trade unions will hide under the skirt of the labor movement, but they're really very different. The rest of the labor movement tends to be more egalitarian, tends to be more inclusive. The construction trade unions are anything but that.
Yeah, we're not talking the teachers, the postal workers. No. We're not talking UAW. We're not talking Ford, who built the black middle class in Cleveland and Detroit. We're talking construction unions, the ones who put a contract out on Arthur Fletcher when he implemented affirmative action. We're talking about those guys. Talking about that guy in Brooklyn who told me I'll be a dead man if I ever stepped in Brooklyn. We're talking about that guy.
Yeah, you got to keep that in mind, because they will hide behind the rest of the union labor movement if you attack them. Number one, please do.